Good evening. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. In honor of Mother's Day weekend, I thought it would be appropriate tonight to make my Friday night final devotion of the week on Mother's Day. And specifically this evening, I want to talk about having kids. Now, when I talk about having kids, my wife is always careful to point out to me that I know nothing about what it's like to have a child. And to which I say, yes, I do not know what it's like to carry a child nor birth a child, and that is true. I have zero frame of reference what that's like. However, I don't need to, because I have the Bible to tell me all that I need to know. Every mom's probably going to love this devotion this evening, so just enjoy. We're going to be looking at the first mom, Eve. We'll be in Genesis chapter 3 and 4. And if you want to turn there, you can. I want to say I had a great experience with my mom just yesterday. She called me up all upset. She said, "Chris, all these Facebook Lives you've been doing, you finally did it. You got yourself blocked." I'm like, "Really?" She's like, yeah, I can't find you anywhere. You're like off Facebook. They kicked you off. I'm like, "Oh, man, you're kidding me. I didn't even think I said anything that bad." And so I pull up my Facebook, and I'm still there. Nothing's blocked. All my posts are still there, and I'm like, all right, I wonder what's going on. I'm like, "Mom, everything looks fine on my end." So we get my sister on the phone there, and come to find out, my mom had blocked me and unfriended me. She couldn't find me because she defriended me, and she didn't even know how she did it, and she was all worried that I was upset. I said, "Mom, I'm not upset. No, it's great. It's my own mom defriended me, but I'm fine. No worries." And she's gonna be so mad. She doesn't listen at night. She listens in the morning. So probably about 8, 9 in the morning, I'm gonna get a hate text from her, and she's gonna be like, "I can't believe you told that story," and so anyhow. But listen. Having kids is not an easy experience. Now, I don't know that from personal experience. I just know that from what the Bible tells me. In Genesis chapter 3, verse number 16, it says, "Unto the woman he said, I will greatly multiply thy sorrow and thy conception, and in sorrow thou shalt bring forth children." And when the Bible says that the woman's sorrow is multiplied in conception, that word conception is dealing with pregnancy as a whole. So because of sin, pregnancy for a lady is multiple times worse than God intended it to be. Well, what's so bad about pregnancy? Well, there's the physical aspects that are unpleasant, and to which I'm reminded, I know nothing about what a lady goes through physically, and that is true. I know nothing about what a lady goes through physically. But I mean, you ever just look at a lady that's probably last trimester, and she just looks miserable? I don't have to know what that's like to know that it's not fun. And I kind of have a rule, actually. Once a lady in the church, it's really amazing. We had a stretch of 6 years straight that there was an expectant mother in the church. And then we had like just a few months off, and now there's another expectant lady. But I have a rule that once they hit that third trimester, I just don't talk to them. I try to avoid eye contact. I don't talk to them. Why? Because I just say dumb things. Like, "How you doing today?" Well, they're miserable. Like, don't ask how they're doing. How do you think they're doing? Look at them. They look horrible. It's not that came out wrong, but they look like they feel horrible. So I don't talk to them for the very reason you see right now. Why I don't talk to them is because of the things I'm saying. And so there's the physical side of things, but then there's the emotional side of things. And not only is pregnancy physically difficult, but it's emotionally difficult. I remember when Jen was pregnant with our first child, she was really being a little excessively emotional. I don't remember over what or whatever, but I was just confused. I just didn't know what was going on, because she's not being her normal self. She's being crazy, and I don't know what's going on. What is so? I was just in my naiveness. I was just like, "Jen, I have a serious question. Do you know that you're being crazy right now, or are you completely unaware of it?" Now, in hindsight, I now realize that that was a very unwise question to ask. But at the time, I genuinely was concerned. I did not know. I didn't understand there was all this emotional side to women having babies and stuff like that. And so you're probably wondering how did that go? Well, the good news is that I'm alive today. All right. I would not recommend that line of questioning, though, if you ever find yourself in that situation. Just don't ask the question. But believe it or not, that is not the closest I came to dying during one of our, we have 5 children. It's not the closest I came to dying. I've had a few other near-death experiences. I'll share this one. We call this the bagel story, and it's just a wonderful story. Jen, towards the end of, I can't remember which pregnant, it might have been Samantha, I can't remember which one, but I know it was down in North Carolina, so it was either Sam or Susie, and she really had a craving for bagels, a certain type of bagel or whatever, so I went to the store, and I found the longest sleeve of this bagels I've ever seen in my life. It was like this double long sleeve that was, and just had like 10 bagels in it. It was crazy. I've never seen anything like it. And so I bought these bagels and I came home and I was like, look at how big this sleeve of bagels is. And actually I said, it's like a baseball bat. And I took it and I was put it up here and I had it on my back. And she's like, give me my bagels. I said, I'll give you your bagels in a second. I'm just, it's like a baseball bat. Look at it. I'm swinging it like this. She's like, give me my bagels. I said, don't worry. Let's just give you bagels in a second. All right. Just hang on. And it was cinnamon raisin bagels, and it was Samantha. And so I had the bag right here, and I don't know what came over me, but man, I like it was a bat. I took it and I swung that bag of bagels just like a baseball bat. Well, funny thing, when I did that, the bottom of the bag ripped, and bagels went flying everywhere. I mean, one hit her in the head. One went down this way. It was like the whole living room exploded bagels. And then I looked at Jen and she gave me a look that I've never seen before nor since. And I'll never forget what happened next. And please don't think poorly of me or her. It's just what happened. She wound up and punched me square in the nose, dropped me on the ground. And I started laughing and crying at the same time. I was laughing because this was hysterical. The bagels went everywhere. She was furious, angry. I just can't even think of her being more mad. But it hurt. I was like, oh, that actually really hurt. And I'm like crying and laughing and crying and all over bagels, cinnamon raisin bagels. Look, pregnancy is tough, but not only is it tough, delivery's sorrowful. The Bible tells us. I remember with Samantha, we got sent home like 2 or 3 times. It was my shoulder. Well, I thought it was my nose. Anyhow, whatever you did, it hurt. All right, and you're ruining the illustration, Jen, by telling me facts. Okay. And this is how I remember it. This is a preacher detail, is that they tell you stories how they remember it and not necessarily how it exactly happened. But anyhow, so delivery's tough because I remember that she kept getting sent home for Samantha. And so I said, man, we're not going through this with Susie, the second one. We're just not doing it. So we're gonna wait, all right? And my brother-in-law was over, and we were playing Tiger Woods golf, and we actually stacked 2 TVs on top of one another. So we were watching sports on one TV while we played Tiger Woods golf on another. And she's like over here, like going through serious contractions and labor. My sister's timing it. I'm like, no, she's fine, she's ready, and she ain't ready yet. And we just waited. Finally, we go and we get there, and I park in the parking garage and make her walk. And we had to stop like every 30 seconds because she was doubled over in pain with contractions. It's like, no, this is good. You're working and all that. And we get there, and basically, long story short, is by the time we got to the hospital, she had the baby 30 minutes later. Like from the time we had parking garage, it's like we walked into the delivery room and boom, there was the baby. And she wasn't too happy with me. I didn't even get a say in Susanna's name because she was not happy with me. So I kind of dropped the ball on that kid. But I remember with with I think it was Violet, one of the other ones. I don't remember which one. I was like, all right, I got to redeem myself. So I'm going to be encouraging in the delivery room. I'm going to be encouraging, and I'm going to lift her spirits. And I don't know what I was doing. I was being annoying or something like that. And she just looked at me and was just like, because this is the only thing she could do from punching me in the face, right? Not and not like she did before, apparently. But anyhow, listen, kids. Not only are they, they're hard, there's a certain difficulty, but they are a gift from God. In Genesis chapter 4 and verse 1, the Bible says, "And Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bare Cain, and said, I've gotten a man from the Lord." When Eve had a child, she was very excited. She understood the child came from the Lord. Now, your children are a gift from God, and they're a blessing from God. We should be excited about children. At church, be excited about kids. Now listen, they make a mess. They break stuff. They got to clean up after them. Don't complain about them. I'm not saying don't teach them how to behave properly, and I'm not saying don't teach them how to pick up after themselves. All right, I'm not saying any of that stuff, but I'm just saying if you got kids at your church, be thankful that you got kids at the church. Man, Lifeline Baptist Church is so blessed. We have our membership's about 130 something, and we've got right on 50 kids. So about 40% of our population is, our church population is kids under the age of 18. And we are so thankful for that. As I mentioned in the beginning, we've had pregnant ladies for the last 6-7 years, and that's exciting. And so, look, they're going to break stuff. Yeah, they're going to mess stuff up. Absolutely. But we should be excited about the fact that God has blessed our church with children. But unfortunately, sometimes children can break your heart. In verse 8 of chapter 4, it says, "And Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him." I mean, can you imagine the anguish that Eve felt when her one child killed another? It's just an awful thing. To say she was disappointed is an understatement. But here's the point I want you to get. Sometimes children do things that hurt us. And it doesn't mean you don't care about them. It doesn't mean that you don't love them. And it doesn't mean you're a bad parent, by the way. I mean, you ever thought about this? We sometimes beat ourselves up as parents because a child has made poor decisions. But think about this, and I'm not saying parenting is not important. It's very important, but consider this. Did Eve's parenting style change dramatically from Cain to Abel? I don't think that it did. Yet one loved God in a great way and was a preacher of righteousness, the Bible teaches us, and the other, was a murderer. Same parents, same teaching style. What was the difference? The individual will of that child. The individual will. And I don't ever want to negate that, because we can choose to do right and we can choose to do wrong. And sometimes children choose wrong, and it hurts. All right? But don't blame yourself for their choices. Okay? They're big boys, they're big girls, they're adults. You weren't perfect as a parent. No parent is. But don't beat yourself up, man. If you got 3 kids and 2 of them are doing great and one's just got, gone off the rails, look, that's their choice, not your doing. And so be gracious to yourself, and don't beat yourself up because a child makes certain choices. But we also see that sometimes children are a source of great joy. In verse 25 says, "Adam knew his wife again and bare a son and called his name Seth. For God, she said, hath appointed me another seed instead of Abel, whom Cain slew." So Eve received Seth, whose name means substituted. And there's much scripture that deals with this, but children are a source. Sometimes they're a source of heartache, but a lot of times they're a source of great joy. And when your child does something well, it's a time for you to rejoice. Whether it's a school project or a sporting event or graduating from high school or college or a military graduation or getting a promotion at work. When your children prospers, there's a sense of accomplishment and joy on your part as a parent. Children, another reason that children are also a blessing, and I've not experienced this, but everybody that's told me agrees with this statement, is that children are a blessing because one day they give you grandchildren. And we have an evangelist comes by we have about him every other year, Brother David Maynard, and down in North Carolina, great man, him and Sister Burita, and they're just wonderful people. But he makes this statement that we just love, and that is that children are sinners, and we know about that. But he says, but grandchildren are not. Well, I can't wait for that day, all right? I can wait, but when that day comes, I look forward to that. Because, see, I've already thought about this, all right? When I have grandkids, and that'll be years from now, all right? And, when I have grandkids, I am going to spoil them. I'm going to say, hey, why don't you, to one of my kids, hey, why don't you go out to dinner with your spouse, leave the grandkids here, and I'm going to feed them candy for dinner, all right? Just pump them full of sugar and then send them home. And you say, you would really do that? Absolutely, all right? You say, why? It's payback, okay? Payback to the monsters that are my children. I love them. They're not really monsters usually, but they do have their moments. What's another interesting component here, though, quickly, is this. Another blessing was that in verse 26, all right, it says, and Seth, to him also were born a son, and called his name Enos, that's the grandchild. Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord. One final thing that's a blessing is you get to watch your kids grow in their relationship with God. Parents, foster a relationship with God. Do not expect, because you grew up in church, that your kids just all of a sudden will. And particularly right now, when you can't go to church, it is extremely important that you be supplementing spiritual things into their life and teaching them to have a proper relationship with God, because it is not going to happen by accident. It is very, very important that we foster that relationship. Yes, we want to teach them Bible stories, but as they turn into young adults, they're going to make their own decisions, and you want to cultivate them having a personal relationship with God, so that they're not growing up with just a bunch of rules of what to do and what not to do, because that's not going to work. You've got to teach them to develop a personal relationship with God, so that they understand why they do what they do and why they do it. And it's not because they were told to, but because they want to. And the reason they want to is because of their personal relationship with God. Now, when you see a child grow in that relationship with the Lord, that's going to be a blessing to you. And it'll be a blessing to moms, because what moms want? They want their kids to grow up and do well and be successful and have good relationships with God and have good marriages and all these things that are come along with a right relationship with God. That's what a mom wants. And I want to encourage you that if you're a mom today, you've been blessed. Wives, you've been blessed. God blesses you with your family. And even your husband sometimes, who does and says dumb things. I know every so often I say something that I probably should not. Just very, very rarely. But on that rare occasion, I do misspeak, all right? Or am just oblivious, okay? But there's never that intent. Whenever, when your wife says, is everything okay? And she says, yep, everything's fine. All right, I don't know what that means, but I know what it doesn't mean. It doesn't mean everything's fine. I've been married for, 16, going to 17 years, and that's what I've learned. Fine doesn't mean fine. Didn't learn that till probably about a year or two ago, but I'm learning, all right? What does it mean? No clue, all right? But every now and then, make a mistake. But I just, wear this shirt, groom, and remind her what a lucky lady she is. I'm just kidding. But in all honesty, moms, have a great, great Mother's Day weekend. Enjoy time with your family, and tune into your church services wherever they're at. If you're in a place where you can go to church and it's cool for you to go to church, do that. But have a wonderful Mom's Day. And guys, do the best you can. Kids, do the best you can. Do something nice for your mom this weekend. All right. Lord bless you. Have a great evening. Bye now.